Coming to you live on a Thursday, July 31st, in the year of our Lord 2025, otherwise known as Trade Deadline Day for those of you who celebrate
That's
at home.
right. That's
I'm
right. That's
not
right.
sure. And I know Astros fan. I mean, listen, I don't refresh Twitter all day except today. Today is where I literally have the feeds of
Yeah,
John
especially
Heyman
for
and
the
Jeff.
next few hours. Yeah.
Right. Bob Nightingale, Jeff Passan, John Heyman, all up in the feed, rolling along,
Stay on top of the big boys.
keep
Yep.
them keep them refreshing. Pardon my voice. I came back from vacation with a bit of a cold. Apparently, Mike has one too. So
I did. Yeah. I spent a
yeah,
little time with the grandson over the weekend. And yeah, here we go. A little summer cold. Not too bad. Not too
no,
bad. Little
mine's
rest.
not bad
To
either.
tell you the truth, I don't really mind it all that much because colds don't usually hit me very hard.
Mm.
But I like the baritone in my voice when I get it. So I'm not,
Nice.
I'm kind of like Phoebe from Friends. I want my cold back.
Mine, I just spend a lot of time sucking on these cough drops
There you
to
go.
avoid coughing directly into the microphone as much as humanly possible. Um, before we dig into trade deadline and everything else, we should just immediately talk about Isak Paredes and the report that is out
Right.
saying that he is expected to miss some 6 to 7 months now with a
Oof.
tear of his hamstring. And as you and I were talking about before this, it's got to be a really significant tear.
Yeah.
If I mean, that's a big muscle. And if you tear it to the point that you're going to need months out, that's got to be
Well, that
really
they have to
bad.
go in and repair it because
Right.
you need to people need to understand there's different grades of pulled
Yes.
muscles, and every pulled muscle is a slight tear.
Right.
And depending on, the three different grades is depending on how severe, the pull is also tear.
Right.
This is completely different. I mean, when you've torn the muscle enough that you have to go in and repair it, I mean, that is a pretty severe
Yeah.
injury. And the thing is, it's a hamstring. And
Right.
so it's not like he can do anything other than just sit and let it heal.
Right. I mean, you can't run, you can't do anything. Um, it's a terrible injury and really bad. It's so bad for the Astros. Listen, at one point they had, I think it was 19 was where they reached the peak
Hmm.
players on the injured list. Um, and we're talking about everyday players. Jeremy
Right.
Pena's. So we should say Jeremy Pena should be back Friday, which
Hmm.
is a huge deal for the Astros. It looks like Spencer Arrighetti will be back early next week. They
Right.
could have Christian Javier, Luis Garcia, and JP France within the next 2 weeks.
Right.
Um, Dana Brown. Now, listen, I'm not taking this as anything other than, you know, I'm doing this the stations of the cross here, but he did say on the radio yesterday that they think Jordan could be back by the middle of August, which as I mentioned, it's July 31st.
Yeah, 2 weeks. That's 2 weeks.
That's he has been swinging the bat. He has been making progress, quote unquote. We
Hmm.
will see. I'll believe it when I see it.
Right.
So they are starting to see some of that, some of those players come back from injury.
Hmm.
But it's time. I mean, with the way they've been, I mean, they've been basically fielding a minor league team most nights, which is why they've been on this really rough streak lately, despite
Sure.
playing some bad teams. But listen, that's why the trade deadline exists, is
Hmm.
for moments like this. If the
No
Astros are
doubt.
going to be a contender, they're going to have to add depth. They're going to have to add players.
And listen, this is not the optimal situation for Dana Brown.
No.
The reason is because every player that the Astros, I don't want to say every player because I don't want to
Hmm.
downgrade or rag on the minor league players, but the
Right.
Astros just don't have a whole lot of Major League Baseball top prospects. And if you are going to, we've been talking about this the whole time, that this is a tough situation, just simply because if you're going to move somebody and get a substantial bat or substantial arm in return, there you're looking for your best young players
Right.
in the organization. And for the Astros, they're all in Houston, so
They're
you're
all playing.
detracting from your 26-man roster. You're taking away from
Right.
your big league club in order to enhance your big league club. So it's a tough situation, especially when, guess what, everybody else in the league is looking to do the same thing.
Yeah, it's messy. And I think in the case of the Astros too, like the Astros as an organization have done a really good job of managing to affect the major league club in a positive way, despite having what is ranked as one of the worst farm systems in baseball.
Yeah.
And people are always like, how can they have the worst farm system in baseball? They keep bringing these guys up and they're good. Sure, that's because they can pick and choose from dozens and dozens and dozens of players.
Right.
That doesn't mean the depth of those players is great. It just
Right.
means that they have quality. And let's be honest. You know this probably better than anybody. Baseball players in the minor leagues are often far more likely to be a trade chip than they are to be a potential major league
Oh,
prospect.
especially when you're on a competitive club.
Yep.
I mean, back in the Yankee days, my Yankee days,
Right.
I kind of felt bad for minor league players in the Yankees farm system because we had veterans on every position.
Right.
And, if you were a minor league player, you just weren't going to be able to, you just weren't going to be able to do it. You weren't going to be able to do anything. I mean,
It's just, yeah. I mean, what are you going to do when you've got every position basically filled? Look, they brought up Bryce Matthews, who had a couple of home runs at one game. He's not quite there. He's not
mhm,
ready yet. He needs some more time. Some of these guys, Jacob Melton's sort of back, but a lot of these guys, they're going to be backups when
sure.
when the Astros have their main guys, and Cam Smith is the outlier in this group.
Right.
But yeah, when you have really good, solid players at every position, you're not suddenly going to just start replacing them with guys that were in Double A last week.
Mhm,
Um, and so yeah, it's tough, but that also means that you just don't have the kind of depth that you would like in
sure.
that minor league system. And when you're trying to make deals, although I will say, if they want to get Correa, which has been one of the rumored things, which I'm not sure that's a great idea,
Well,
but
yeah. I think we'll be talking about that situation here in just a second.
yeah, but here's the funny thing. If they're going to get it from anybody, I mean, dude, there are some teams out there that are dumping players like hand over fist right now.
Sure.
I mean, and so, but that's the way it goes with what 4 hours left before the trade deadline, four
Mhm.
hours and some change. So yeah, let's talk about Correa real quick because actually, you know what? Hang on. Let's talk about Ramon Urias.
There
He's
you
the guy
go.
that actually
That's the
is an Astro. Let's
right,
start there.
right.
So the Astros, excuse me, move a guy named Twine. By the way, did you see this guy's name Twine?
I did see that. That is
Luke
a
Twine.
very, very unique first name.
For Raymond Urias. Talk about what we got.
Okay, so you actually got a player that is a Gold Glover. He won a Gold Glove at third base a couple years ago. He's a good all round player. He's moved all around the infield, so he's got versatility. We know the Astros love to have players that can be moved around that aren't just keyholed into one position. And he's not a bad little offensive player. I mean, you're talking about a guy that his OPS is just about league average. He's got a little bit of pop. Got a batting average, I think, just under 250. So around league average also. And so this was the type of player I was expecting. Now, did I know it was going to be Ramon? No, I didn't. But I just didn't think that the Astros were going to be able to get a guy like Correa. I mean, obviously the Twins would love to get that salary off the board, but from the reports that I was hearing, they were looking for a haul in return, and the Astros just couldn't afford to do that. As great as it would be to see Correa back in an Astros
Sure.
uniform, the other side of it is, I think you would have had to have there would be some serious conversations there because now you have two All-Star shortstops and somebody was going to have to move to third base. And the rumor was was probably going to be Correa
Right.
once Pena came back. But
Yeah.
still, that's a lot of moving parts. That's a lot of drama that you really don't need. And what you need is somebody that's going to be able to mostly defensively man third base and do an above average job. And that's exactly what Ramon Urias is, winning a Gold Glove, and he is a natural third baseman. So, I think this was I think this was a good move, and this was kind of what I was expecting.
Yeah.
Especially when you're talking about letting an A ball pitcher go, even though if it's a talented A ball
Twine.
pitcher, yeah, yeah,
Named Twine. I just can't get over that.
yeah,
That's the only thing
yeah. That's a unique first name. That's to say the least.
I'm interested in Correa. I think is a weird one too, because what do you do? He's still got time left on his contract.
Right.
What do
So
you
you're
do
just,
next
yeah.
year?
Well, I mean, listen, when you trade for a player, unless you're going to release, it doesn't matter if you release them or not, you still got to pay the salary. And I think that is also where Ramon comes into play is,
Yes.
he came into the season with just a little over 4 years in the big league. So,
Right.
you've got him for a couple of years. This isn't
Yeah.
just a rental.
No, for sure. And you got to assume he can be another Dubon
Could be.
type of player. That's part of the deal. Okay. So you've got Urias, Correa. What are the Astros still trying to get, do you think, at this point?
Well, you're
I
always
mean,
looking for another arm. Always. It doesn't
right.
matter. You could have the best pitching staff in the history of the game, and you're still going to look for a lot of times a reliever. But if you could find, a back of the rotation starter, something like that. But the conversation, we just repeat the conversation, which is we you have to look at what they're going to be asking for in return.
I'm very curious about the starting prospects because you've got so many guys coming back. Now, we don't know how Christian Javier and Luis Garcia are going to pitch. We don't
Right.
know if JP France is going to be a legitimate addition.
Right.
I think we can kind of assume that Arrighetti will be okay. And they are going to dump a bunch of guys probably into the bullpen, at least some. So it
Well, I
does
mean,
add,
there's still 26 man. I mean,
yeah,
you still only have 26 roster spots, and I think
absolutely.
only 13 of those can be pitchers. So
Right.
you can't just shove a whole bunch of guys down there. So for every guy that comes back, someone else has to leave. So
Right.
um, guys like Gusto or something. If you want to keep them extended, the only place he can go is back to the minor leagues
Right.
to keep his pitch count up, keep his arm strength up. But those are all decisions that will be made. I know a lot of general managers will be asked questions. So what are you going to do, in 2 weeks? What are you going to do when this guy comes
Right.
back? They don't say it all the time. You hear them say it occasionally, but a lot of times these things take care of themselves. That as soon as somebody's ready to come back, somebody else is sore, or it kind of just all evens out. Sometimes you have to make hard decisions, and that's why Dana Brown gets the general manager's job, is to make those tough decisions. But it's not an optimal situation. And you go, say, well, yeah, these are all good problems to have, that you got all these guys coming back. It's still problems. There's still
Right.
things you have to do. It's not like
Right.
everything is just cake and ice cream.
Well, and also, look, the reality is they need a bat more than they need an arm. I mean,
Sure.
you can never have enough arms, right? We all know that. We saw what the Astros have gone through this year, last year, but they have no left-handed bats
Yeah.
in this lineup. Well, they got Jacob Melton back, which is anything is what is in Groundhog Day. Anything different is good, and so if they're gonna go out and get a bat, which I think they want to, again, there's so many barriers to them acquiring this. I'm not sure what exactly they're going to be able to do that. I hope they
Yeah.
are, but
Well, I mean, the thing that usually how it works, and of course, this is not set in stone in any way. If you're looking for a pitcher, you give up a hitter. If you're looking for a hitter, you give up a
interesting.
pitcher, and that's how
Interesting.
a lot of times that's how it works. And the Astros, I think, with several of the guys that they have brought up, whether they're top prospects or not, I think they've shown pretty well. So there is a little
Yeah.
bit of value there. But the crazy thing is, the best thing the Astros can do is get Jordan healthy. I mean, that's
Right.
it. I mean, would you
Him and
like to
Pena.
have? I think that you also have you've got kind of a logistical issue, that where you get a left-handed bat, that's great. He's got to play in the field somewhere,
Right.
and so
Exactly.
where exactly is he going to play? And now all of a sudden, the pool in which you're drawing from is much, much smaller. And that's why I think you have a guy like, you bring in a guy like Urias, and you go, okay, he can play everywhere else.
Right.
That's why the Astros have always liked to have those interchangeable parts. But when you can't just bring in a bat, because the dude's got to play on the other side of the ball too.
Well, that's right. And honestly, look, again, the Astros have sort of put this whole thing together with spit and baling wire most of the year anyway.
Mhm.
Taylor Trammell has been very solid for them as a left-handed bat in the outfield. Um, like I said, Melton is back. We will probably get Jake Myers back at some point in the next month or so,
Yeah.
depending on his recovery process. Um, you're right. There is the possibility that you create some log jams there. Um, so I don't think the Astros necessarily want to overreact. But
Yeah.
listen, if suddenly they could get Dylan Cease, I don't think anybody is going to complain, you know. Or I mean,
Yeah.
if somebody's got to get sent down, oh well.
Right. And listen, that's the business side of baseball. That's just the way the sport works. That
Yeah,
you but if you can get a quality arm like see and to
I
tell you
don't
the
think they're
truth,
going to get it.
I think that's a extreme long shot because you got to remember there are 29 other teams. Well, probably not that many. There's
Hmm.
probably 10 other teams, maybe 12 other teams that are looking to do the same
Right.
thing.
Right.
And so that's why the trade deadline, because we hear fans say all the time, oh, well, go out and get, the
Yeah.
biggest left-handed bat on the market. Yeah, you got to have something to go in return. You got, the trade is a two-way street. So
Right.
it's not nearly as easy. And as fans, which is shorter for fanatics, fans are, we don't want to hear about the business side. We just want to get the player.
Well, I mean, there's no better day in sports unless you're a radio calling guy.
Yeah.
And then the trade deadline. I mean, if you have to man the phones at a radio station on a day like this,
Hmm.
just get out of the business. It's a terrible day for that.
Right.
So, assume the Astros stand pat. Where do they go from here now that we've seen who they are?
Yeah. I listen. I think that. I mean, I think there's a conversation here. Do you feel like the Astros have overachieved? Do you feel like with all the injuries they've had? But we had the discussion at the beginning of the season that I didn't think this was a tremendous World Series contending roster when everybody was healthy.
Right.
And then I think that's why it's been so remarkable to see exactly what they've been able to do with all the injuries
Right.
and even the injuries that you were counting on people coming back and not happening. And then them still winning. I mean, yeah, they went through the little ugly streak there. The
Right.
last couple wins have righted the ship a little bit, but it's one of the reasons why you build a lead. They're not
Right.
in a great division. That helps. But you're still playing the same. You're still playing the same teams. You don't even play that much inside your division as you
Right.
did just a few years ago.
It's an interesting thing to me too that when you look at how this season is shaped up, I mean, they've done everything they possibly could to
Mhm.
win. Like you said, despite injuries, despite a somewhat underwhelming roster, quite frankly, and they're still in a position to be really good, which just makes them assuming, to be buyers. But also, well, okay, if you want to keep some of your top prospects because you do think they're going to be here in the next year or so. I said at the beginning of the season, I thought this was going to be a transition year. I
You did.
still think it is to a certain degree, especially with Cam Smith and Bryce Matthews getting time and Jacob Melton
Mhm.
and whomever else. Um, it's very difficult to balance those things. And I don't envy Dana Brown when you're trying to think, oh, maybe we can win it all, but we probably won't. So I don't want to give up these guys who are probably going to be in our lineup next year.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
tough situation.
It is. It is. But that's why when you bring players in, it's not just about the immediate, the not the immediate future. It's the future
Yeah.
in front too, and that's
Yes.
why you bring up a guy because listen, Paredes, as great as he had played for the Astros, even if you go back to last year, he was an All Star last year, but it was a tale of two seasons. He had a
Yes.
really good first half, and he did not have a very good second half. So you weren't really sure what was going to happen. You were hoping that he would find that consistency.
Right.
Um, but I mean, you're talking about 6 or 8 months before he can be back. And who knows? I mean, all you have to do is look at the IL for the Astros this year, how many setbacks there have been with the players that have been on the IL. So, and that's got nothing to do with the medical staff or anything like that. That's just the nature of injuries. Sometimes
Right.
sometimes there's setbacks. And so, this at least gives you an option going forward that that third base is going to be taken care of, uh, at minimum defensively.
It's a weird world because you look at around the league and people are like, oh, the Astros medical staff. Look at the Dodgers.
Yeah.
I mean, look, there's some teams
It's
around
really
this.
all over baseball. I mean, it truly is. And,
Yeah,
we've had this discussion for, we being just, baseball fans,
right.
for years and years and years now about how, especially in the pitching staffs, the injuries in the pitching staffs. Why is that?
Yeah,
Starting pitchers are throwing fewer and fewer innings, but they're getting hit. They're getting hurt at a much higher rate.
yeah,
Relievers where my generation we would throw all the time. Now these guys don't go 3 days in a row. But still get hurt. So what are the causes? Well, there's many causes. This is not. It's not. You
right.
can't just put your finger on one thing. But yeah, this is just the situation you're in, and that's why there's got to be so many moving parts. That's why you have a minor league system.
Yeah,
Um, and when you get to the higher reaches of the minor leagues, the Astros have done an outstanding job of letting these guys know, hey, dude, you're not here in AAA for the season. You're a phone call away, and you need to be
right.
prepared anytime that phone rings and get called up to the big leagues.
What were trade deadlines like for you? I mean, did you ever have anxious like moments
Oh,
on
sure,
trade?
sure.
How did you handle that? I'm curious.
It's kind of weird. After you've been through it once or twice, then you kind of just take it with a grain of salt and realize what's going to happen is going to happen. It's
Right.
one of those things that, you try to control the controllables, and, whether you get traded or not, there's not a whole lot in baseball that you're in less control of,
Right.
unless you have a no trade clause or something like that. So it can be very daunting, uh, especially as a young player, first time going through it. I was never really traded and didn't know it was happening, or at
Mm.
least had an idea it was happening. So, who was the player for the Mets several years ago that was visibly crying on the field?
Oh, right.
Yeah,
God, who was
infielder.
it? Yeah, right. Exactly. That
You
was
know
yeah.
that it just hit him. Hey, you're
Right.
traded, and then I think he wasn't traded.
Yeah,
I
I think it
think,
was
yeah, and he
rescinded. I
got
think you're right.
then he got traded a little while later.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would just, because, as a young player, less than 6 year player, when you haven't gone through free agency, and yeah, you may have been through arbitration or,
Right.
contract negotiations, and those can get a little bit ugly, but you don't really get the full gist of what the business side of baseball is until, you know, everything, the apple cart is completely turned over in the matter of
Right.
a lot of times a 30-second phone call, because it's not like, actually, tell you the truth, the first time I got traded, I didn't get called by the Atlanta Braves. I got called by the Boston Red Sox. I got called by Dan Duquette, and he was the one that
Wow.
that informed me that I had been traded.
Wow. That is wild. So when you were traded, did you have a family and everything at that point
Oh
too?
yeah, actually,
I
the first time when I went from Atlanta to Boston, my wife, we had just had our daughter 2 weeks prior.
Wow.
Yeah,
What was that
so
like? What was that
it was,
conversation like?
well, I mean, listen, as far as the baseball side of it is, there's not a whole lot you can do. You got to
Right.
grab your stuff and you got to go.
Right.
You have some time. I think you have 72 hours to report to the new team.
Mhm.
But, the last thing you want to do is take 3 days to get to the new team just
Right.
because,
And
you
you've got a
know,
newborn and like
yeah, and so yeah, it was very difficult. And actually, we did have a house in Atlanta. I went to Detroit. That's where the Red Sox were
mm,
playing. My wife turned around, and I think we may still have had either my mother or her mother, there helping, because I had
yeah.
two boys that were pretty young in front of my daughter,
Wow.
a little older than my daughter. Um, they came back here to Houston, that was like, okay, well, she needs more support than this. And so, they came back here to Houston. And
Wow.
yeah, so it's, that's something that I think it's talked about occasionally, but it's not really talked about all that much. That, these guys are human beings that have family lives and have,
Right.
you know, lives away from the field. And those weigh just as much as it does to anybody else walking down the street.
Right.
There's breakups and divorces and this and that.
Yeah.
And, it all happens,
Oh
and you
yeah.
still got to go out on the field and perform.
It's a weird world because I think we often forget that our daily lives from one person to the next are not dramatically different. I mean,
Yeah.
what the way we live them might be a little bit different because of the money we make or the job that we have or whatever else. But everybody has daily stresses. Everybody deals with the same stuff. Everybody has to deal with groceries and kids and like whatever else, chores around,
Mhm.
whatever it is. You got to figure that out one way or the other. And when you're a baseball player, and also by the way, baseball maybe more than any other sport, there's not always guys being traded away who are multimillionaires. There are
Oh
a lot of
no.
guys, when
Right.
you're talking about prospects, these guys aren't super wealthy.
Oh
They
no.
can't just
Actually, the minor leagers, you may have got a signing bonus, but as far as
right.
salary you're drawing, you're drawing peanuts. I mean,
Exactly.
no, they get paid much better now than when I was in the minor leagues. But
I
I
bet.
mean, that's the design of the whole system. Is you're not supposed to make a whole crap ton of money when you're
Right?
in the minor leagues.
Right?
All even once you get to the big leagues, you make good money. There's no doubt about that. But
Right.
you got to spend some time in the big leagues to start earning a higher salary.
I remember the line in Bull Durham when he talked about being in the show and saying like, brand new baseballs for batting practice.
Right.
I was like,
Right.
yeah, I mean that's reality, man. That's how it is. I still will never forget uh Jeff Blum telling me about how one time they were in the minors that he showered it was in a barn
Hmm.
and there were just wood pallets on the floor and there were just
Oh
these
wow.
things you pull down. I'm like, man, that is rough living if you to
Yeah.
play
Oh, yeah. There
baseball.
were. I mean, now a lot of minor league parks. Well,
Oh,
even now that
yeah.
they've changed the draft, now there's a lot of independent baseball.
Sure.
I'm sure there's still some questionable fields out there, but man, yeah, back in the late '80s, and I can only imagine how it was before that. You played on some pretty rough tracks, to say the
What was the
least.
worst one you ever played at, you think?
Oh my gosh, that's tough. I don't know. I came up in the Appalachian League,
Mhm.
and the Appalachian League was a pretty good league. That's where a lot of the June draft, especially if you were a
Oh, yeah.
college kid, that's where uh, a lot of the draftees would go.
Yeah.
Um, God, I played Burlington, Iowa. I was actually my home field in Midwest League. That was and we had a drought, and the field was like a parking lot because they couldn't water. There was a drought. They had
Oh
water
my god.
restrictions on. The
Yeah.
only green field in the league was Peoria, and that was because it was a big city. All the rest of them
Peoria.
were towns like Burlington. You go, where is it exactly?
Yeah, well, Iowa, for people who don't know, I had a girlfriend years ago whose family had a farm in Iowa,
Mhm.
and Iowa is just a patchwork of tiny little farm towns. It's
Yes.
basically all it is. It's just a state filled, and you're just hopping from tiny farm town to tiny farm town. You
Mhm.
drive for 45 minutes in one direction, you'll go through like 10 little towns that
Right.
all have like 100 people in them.
Right.
And then everything else is just a quilt of soybean and corn farms
Mhm.
everywhere. Actually, a pretty state. But their water restrictions are unique there because, like in their neighboring state, Nebraska, they have irrigation. In
Right.
Iowa, they don't because they get a lot of rain. And so they just don't have the irrigation there that they do.
Right.
So if you dry out, you're just dried out.
That's
That's
it. And
it.
we were, man. Oh my goodness.
I can't even imagine. That's hilarious. All right. Well, thanks everybody for joining us. We have T minus 3 hours and 56 minutes remaining before the trade deadline. Will the Astros do something we don't know? It's a good question.
It
We'll
is.
find out.
And only time will tell.
Will it come down to the final seconds, like remember Verlander, where it was like literally?
Actually, to tell you the truth, it's supposed to be a hard time,
Mhm.
I think is it 4 o'clock here? I think
5 o'clock,
5 o'clock here. It's
6 Eastern.
supposed to be a hard time, but
Yeah, some of that stuff drifts a
it
little.
can if you have something in the works, they're not going to just say, okay, no more talks. So it could go a little bit past that, but you're not making any new phone calls after 5 o'clock here.
No. Well, I mean, it's not gonna be another Verlander deal probably. But listen,
All right,
weird things have happened in baseball, and certainly weird things have happened with the Astros. So everybody keep hammering that reload button on
that's
Twitter.
it.
That's all I
That's
can
it.
tell you. Thanks to everybody for joining us.
Get
We will
into
see
your
you next
settings,
time.
get the
Get
notifications.
in there, get those notifications rolling,
Right.
get that phone up, get it listening. So thanks everybody for joining us. We will talk to you next time. As always, go Astros.
Adios.